talk about this current forecast for the upcoming weekend as well as working our way into next week. There's a very large storm system we'll have to contend with, not only up here in the White Mountains, but across New England and much of the eastern seaboard. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. First, I think a good place to start here is with current conditions up here on the summit of Mount Washington. So currently winds are at a pretty breezy 69 miles per hour or so. In the last 10 minutes, we saw a wind gust of 83 miles per hour. And if you can believe it, today the peak wind gust was 116 miles per hour captured this afternoon. And that's in association with an area of low pressure that's to the north of Canada and then a building area of high pressure. And with these systems in between them, you get pressure gradients that cause winds, especially up here on the summits, to be quite strong. And so today was definitely no exception to that rule of thumb. Today was also quite warm for December standards. Up and down the mountains, so down in the valley, we ended up in the middle and upper 40s, and up here on the summits, we ended up in the mid 20s, which is well above average for, again, the middle part of December. And visibility at the moment, we're down to less than a 16th of a mile. We did see a little bit of sunshine today, actually quite a bit of sunshine, and then things, of course, clouded over. And again, we spend about 60% of our years in the fog, so again, really no surprises here on the summit. And we'll briefly look outside, and you'll notice a lot of rime ice and fog. So here's a view from the deck cam. And again, not a whole lot to see outside this evening. Again, just lots of rime ice and fog. And so we'll start the forecast here in a pretty interesting place. You might be asking me, Francis, why are we starting in the Gulf of Mexico? And really the answer to that question is the future storm system we have keyed in for early in the work week. So this right now we're looking at the infrared satellite loop. This is looking at the temperatures of the different cloud tops. So again, the colder those temperatures are, the higher those cloud tops are. And so you see these oranges and greens indicating cooling cloud tops and again, rising air and increasing cloud cover. So this is our storm system getting its act together in the Gulf of Mexico. Here, pretty broad area precipitation. And the more precipitation you have, the more of a chance you have for the storm system to actually interact with the jet stream positively and help to strengthen itself. And so this is really no exception, a pretty classic early winter season storm. We'll take a look at the regional view. And yeah, you can see a pretty clear day over New England. Not a whole lot to talk about. A storm system there across the Midwest, and that's going to be another one of the players that's going to actually help bring that storm system out of the Gulf and strengthen it over the next couple of days or so. But we'll take a look at what the last day has looked like over New England. You can see a lot of waviness to those cloud cover, I should say, and that's because we've had some really strong winds coming up and over the terrain. I think I talked about it a few weeks ago, but the mountain waves that we experience are really showing up on satellite today pretty spectacularly. And that little slice you see there is actually the sun going down on the satellite, not picking up on those cloud features anymore. But again, a pretty clear day if you're pretty much anywhere but the White Mountains, which is pretty common, again, especially this time of year. And so now we'll take a look at the upcoming forecast here. We'll start with precipitation. This is the North American Mesoscale model. And there's a weak frontal boundaries that's going to move through overnight and into early Saturday. So that could bring a few scattered snow showers. And I think this model shows that pretty well. We'll fast forward the clock here through the overnight Saturday. You can see little patches of blue and pink there showing up earlier overnight Saturday. And then as we go throughout the overnight, the showers will tend to wane in coverage. And that's really associated with just a very weak cold front. It's going to help temperatures go down to the upper 20s instead of, or I should say the lower 20s instead of the upper 20s going into the overnight. And into Saturday. Saturday, you can see not a whole lot to talk about. We'll be under high pressure as it builds in from southern Canada. And we'll fast forward that clock now into Saturday night. And again, not a whole lot to talk about. You can see some showers beginning to enter the picture there. This is now going into later Saturday night and Sunday. You can see a few scattered rain or snow showers very early Sunday, but there's also going to be a lot of dry air with that high pressure slowly pulling away Saturday night. Really Sunday is when things will start to go downhill. We'll see the summits go back into the fog as that storm system approaches, and we'll see rain showers pick up in the afternoon, possibly starting with some snow or mixed precipitation showers early in the day. This is now Monday, and Monday is going to be pretty much a washout. We'll talk a little bit more about that storm towards the end. We'll also talk about now the winds, and winds are going to be pretty interesting, so I'll come back on this side again. I hope this is more visible to folks viewing this at home. So again, strong northerly and westerly winds through this afternoon and evening. Winds will really see calm down tomorrow as an area of high pressure again builds in. They'll go from more of a westerly direction, more of a northerly direction, and eventually potentially becoming light and variable at times during the afternoon. You see the center of that high pressure, that nice clockwise spin around it, making its way right over the higher summits tomorrow evening, right around dinner time. And then, unfortunately, the high pressure is quickly out of here, and you can see a return flow developing around the backside of it. Again, a clockwise flow, pushing in the southerly winds over the higher summits. You see some greens and yellows developing. That indicates winds in the 30 to 50 mile per hour range starting tomorrow night, and then building through the day on Sunday. We'll see low pressure approaching from the southwest and high pressure still to the east. So that means another pressure gradient type of scenario up here on the summit. And again, strong winds. Winds increasing throughout the day Sunday. And so here we go. We got Sunday afternoon now, a southerly to southwesterly wind. These winds will also bring in a lot more in the way of warm air off the Atlantic. And we'll see the winds continue to ramp up. This is now Sunday evening. And I'll stop the clock here with our high resolution model on Monday. And we'll take a more zoomed out view with the GFS model in just a little bit at the large impacts of the storm, just the large scale and scope of the upcoming storm. We'll finally talk about temperature really quickly. And so, again, we have a cold front coming through tonight, so you see temperatures dropping well below freezing up here on the summits and elsewhere across the North Country as well. And then we'll see a nice rebound in temperatures gradually throughout the day on Saturday as we start to weaken that flow, and we'll have some of the abundant sunshine that we expect tomorrow to moderate temperatures somewhat. And then we'll see temperatures increase pretty dramatically tomorrow night, maybe approaching the 30-degree mark or so overnight. And then Sunday will be a day of warming overall. We'll go fast forward the clock here a little bit so you can see temperatures actually getting above freezing. A lot of that cold air moving well off to the northeast as it's associated with a high pressure as it moves away. And we'll see temperatures warm even more Sunday night and into the day on Monday. We could be talking about record warmth Monday. Our record high temperature for this time of year is around 40 degrees for Monday, so we'll be keeping a very close eye on that up here on the summit. And so we'll take a look now at the regional view, and we'll see how that storm system is going to unfold. Again, it's way down in the Gulf of Mexico. I showed you that that infrared satellite image, I should say, a couple of minutes ago. That's the storm getting its act together. And so we'll stop the clock tomorrow afternoon. Areas of Florida and the southeast should be aware of severe weather as the storm system starts to get its act together. That other player that I mentioned, the storm system across the Midwest, will start to interact with that developing low pressure as it moves off the East Coast. This is now Sunday afternoon. Still hundreds of miles away from the higher summits, but you can start to see it developing that classic comma head shape. Lots of heavy rain in the Carolinas. That's going to make its way up the eastern seaboard. This is now going into Monday. We'll actually rewind the clock here. Late Sunday night, going into very early Monday. I want you to see or focus on these greens and reds here. That's moderate to heavy rainfall across the entire northeast. You'll also see a strong band of thunderstorms likely offshore with the storm. So it's going to be a fairly high impact event. Again, a lot of winds and a lot of wet weather, and that storm's going to be pretty quick to exit. It's going to go essentially track right over the higher summits and much of southern New England as well as it makes its way northward. And then eventually as it pulls away, there could be some cold air on the backside to help recover some of the snow loss that is likely going to occur with this wet system, this very warm and wet system, unfortunately. Again, really not cool to see in the middle of December. We really, as meteorologists and snow enthusiasts up here in the White Mountains, we never like to see storms like this as we start the winter time. The other big story of this storm is going to be the winds. And so this is looking at accumulated maximum wind gusts. So what's the maximum wind gust as you go hour to hour to hour? And so we'll run this through day Sunday. We see some of those strong winds now along coastal areas of the Carolinas, building in the Delmarva, New Jersey. This is later Sunday. And you can see the swath of very strong southeasterly winds that will be with the system, making their way up the eastern seaboard, now 60s and some 70s as well along the Jersey Shore and even southern portions of Long Island. This is very early Monday. And Monday is just going to be a pretty raw day throughout all of New England. It could be a pretty destructive day as well, especially along the coastline where wind gusts could be in the 60s to 70 mile per hour range. At least at the moment, that's what this particular model is showing. Again, things could change if the storm does track either east or west of the region a little bit, but right now this is pretty much looking like the maximum potential for wind gusts. This is going right through Monday afternoon, so you see a lot of widespread 50s and 60 mile per hour gusts throughout the region. And we hope that this doesn't play out as the current models are showing. So again, you want to keep an eye out on your local National Weather Service forecast as we get closer to this event, and we certainly will be keeping a close eye on this as well with our higher summits forecasts. And so again, pretty big event. keep potential power outages and things like that in the back of your mind. Have a plan to maybe gas up the generator, charge up your phones, batteries, laptops, things like that, and perhaps have a NOAA weather radio as well, as this storm will bring a variety of hazards, not only to the coastline, but well inland, of course, if we do have large power outages in the North Country that could help or that could hinder communications and rescue efforts up here in the White Mountains as well. So something we'll be keeping a very close eye on, and I'm sure your home meteorologist will also be watching the storm like a hawk if they haven't already mentioned it already. And so we'll wrap up here. We'll talk about the higher summits forecast, but I first want to thank our audience for those who have contributed to our year-end campaign. So far, we've raised over $200,000 to contribute to our scientific research, our observations, and our educational programs up here on the summit of Mount Washington. We do deeply appreciate this. We've got a little ways to go till we get to our goal of $270,000. So I'm hopeful that maybe we can get to that goal by the end of the year, especially if you support our work as a nonprofit organization researching some of the world's most extreme weather. But again, from the bottom of my heart and my fellow observers as well, I want to thank you all, anyone who has donated, I should say. I'm getting all choked up here, but thank you so much. It really does mean a lot coming from the summit of Mount Washington. We'll take a final look at what we expect to occur on the summit of Mount Washington. So for tonight, we'll be in and out of the clouds under increasingly cloudy skies. Again, that cold front's going to be making its way in. And we'll see snow accumulations with some snow showers possible between a trace and an inch. Low temperatures around 20 degrees. Winds will start off pretty impressively, 70 to 90 miles per hour, decreasing to 50 to 70 miles per hour, setting the stage for some pretty cold wind chills, 0 to 10 below perhaps. So a pretty cool night despite some moderating temperatures. For Saturday, pretty much a night and day type of difference from tonight. We'll see mostly sunny skies under partly cloudy skies. We'll be in the clear as well up here in the summits. Really no fog to talk about. And high temperatures will be in the mid-20s, winds will be from the northwest, shifting pretty quickly counterclockwise to the southeast over on our later in the day, going from 50 to 70 miles per hour to start the day, all the way down to 5 to 20 as that high pressure passes overhead. And wind chills will be between 10 and 20 above, rising pretty nicely, but still cold. You still want to pack for wintertime hiking if you're visiting us up here in the White Mountains. For Saturday night, we'll be mostly in the clear. Under those increasingly cloudy skies, again, as that storm system starts to get its act together, it's going to have a really large shield of clouds that will start to come over the White Mountains. We could also see some snow showers, especially after midnight, but there will be some dry air overcome, so we'll see about that. But wanted to keep it in the forecast just to give people a heads up in case it does pan out. Temperatures will fall back to the low 20s, and winds will really be the big story. They'll be out of the south initially at around 10 to 25, but quickly ramping up to 30 to 55 miles per hour, especially after midnight. And finally, for Sunday, in the clouds with a chance of snow showers, we could also see some mixed precipitation as well as plain rain later on in the day. Depends on how quickly that warm air gets here. But there will be some cold air lingering from that area of high pressure, especially near summit level. So we'll keep a close eye on the potential for icing up here on the summits. And of course, we'll mention it in our higher summits forecast if things do indeed change. Really, Sunday's big story will be the winds from the south, 35 to 50 miles per hour in the morning, and then increasing to 55 to 75 miles per hour, with gusts well over hurricane force, perhaps up to 90 miles per hour by the evening. And wind chills will still be quite cold, 15 to 25 degrees above zero. And with that, hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Hope you stay safe, and definitely keep an eye to your local National Weather Service forecast if you live anywhere really along the eastern seaboard as the storm system takes place. Of course, we will update our higher summits forecasts twice daily as we get closer to the storm. But with that said, I hope everyone has a wonderful and healthy weekend. And thank you for joining us this evening. And